end zone. Pass caught. Touchdown, Gunner.
Hey guys, welcome to Black Angus Reviews. Today we'll be reviewing Extraction, starring Chris Hemsworth. That's right, our boy Thor from the Marvel Universe is in a awesome action flick, instant classic in my opinion. Very simple plot. The biggest thing right after the end credits, I saw the director's name, so I looked up, looked him up to see what other films he's done, and this is his directorial debut. He does have a history behind the camera, or, on sets. He's a stuntman and a stunt coordinator, I think, for the Marvel Universe largely. So, got a lot of experience, and this film was actually written by Joe Russo and produced with Joe and Anthony Russo. So, clearly this first-time director, I think, had a lot of help, a lot of guidance, a lot of experience on set to help, I think, make up for any shortcomings a first-time director would have. It's a real testament to this film. Now, I haven't read actual reviews, but I'm looking at the Wikipedia article, and we will be talking a bit about this reception to this film and the overall score. I don't like to get bogged down with my channel, this stuff, and we'll get to it at the end, but, I'll actually be talking about something woke. Unfortunately, it's just, infected our culture today with media and film and enjoyability. But anyway, let's get down to the plot. So it's really simple, straightforward. It's like a lot of great action films, at least the first time, like Rambo, like Die Hard, John Wick, Predator. You have a very simple premise, and you just execute a thorough sequence of events, to tell that simple story. You're here to wow people with the excitement, with the action. It's the action genre. You don't need to overcomplicate it, and this film does really well. There's this amazing shot that reminds me of a longer sequence version of the Batman vs. Superman warehouse scene, the iconic scene. Whether you like the film or not, I think everyone came off that scene like, wow, I've never seen Batman like that. And it felt very much like, hey, let's throw the middle finger to that film, and do it better. I think it's always going to be compared, if anyone knows those two film sequences, but they definitely did one-up it. This film felt like John Wick a lot, not just because it's action and, gun smithing, I don't know, gung fu, I guess, but it it had a bit more blood, it had a bit more, weight to it, I would say. John Wick, I think they want to wow you with the stunts and the long sequence, but they don't really want to have any, it's not really any consequence for John Wick. We're on the fourth film now coming. This one, it felt like, God, this guy is getting hacked to pieces, It's like you're playing a game and your life meter's down to 5, That's what it felt like. You're always wondering what's around the corner. Will Hemsworth even make it through this? It felt like a film where he might be expendable, and the story might actually get handed off to another character. And apparently there was like I said, there's a 12-minute sequence. A real testament. If you love film, it's like the Batman scene or the hallway fight in Daredevil. Or some John Wick sequences where it's just like a long shot, but this is, blew me away because the camera work, it was like 1917 where it was just falling everywhere. Hemsworth went, so not only was the stunt coordination amazing for this film, but the camera work to capture some of this, especially that sequence, wow. I just, hats off to you, Sam Hargrave, and thank you, Russo brothers, for hanging out with a little person, if you will, and helping them out. And if people don't know, Russo's, I'm not sure if they have like a huge deal overall at Netflix, but they do have a Magic the Gathering show or film series coming. I reported about like a year ago, which I'm really excited about. Them taking another franchise and adapting it to film and stuff with their vision. It's gonna be great. And Hemsworth gives a really good performance. At first it felt like, all right, here's just this muscle-bound quiet warrior, stoic, but he's internalizing or just unfeeling. But eventually through the child that he saves, it really developed a character I could sympathize with and I cared about. Like the Mandalorian, spoilers now. Like the Mandalorian, this plot kind of goes where extract or find this bounty, bring it back, get your pay. Doesn't matter what happens to it afterwards. But then it's a kid, and it's expendable now, so just leave him. He'll probably get hacked up by the rival gang. For whatever reason, Hemsworth finds some sort of moral compass being pulled at, if you will, that he can't allow this to happen. And it's really cool. David Harbour actually has a small role in this film as a buddy from previous missions with Hemsworth, who owes him a favor. He's actually in India, and he helps hide him out. But then it turns it's a double cross, at least sort of, where he's got to kill the kid, and he's trying to cut Hemsworth in on the deal. But this brings him to fight. So it's kind of cool seeing Thor versus Hellboy. At least actors who've portrayed them. What say you about the new Hellboy? Harbour did fine as the character, so that's kind of cool seeing Hopper and Hemsworth come at odds with each other, and seeing some action sequence that is very raw and physical, not some CGI silliness. So that was really cool. So overall, I give this film at least an 8 out of 10, if not more. Whether or not it's just within the action genre or if it's just straight, with what this film's supposed to be, I think it executed quite well. There's really no issue I had. Simple plot. It takes place in Dhaka, India, and they're pretty much set in a city surrounded by bridges and rivers, and so they're being guarded by the police, bought by the rival gang member that's kidnapped the child and trying to recover him. And so that's kind of what has all these crazy sequences happen, where they're stuck in a confined space and they got to get out of that border somehow, and they need extraction themselves. Before I get to that, discussing the consensus on the internet with reviewers today, one thing, there's this little element with the child, the interaction with the child helps bring forth the character from Hemsworth, being more than just a gun and muscle. And you learn that he lost a child and his marriage is broken up because of it, and it turns out he wasn't there. He volunteered for a third tour to Afghanistan at the time, and that's clearly eating away at him. So that's why he keeps seeing these blurry images of a child that was his. And there's something the child says that really got me, for maybe some subtext to this film. He says, you don't drown by falling in the river, it's by submerging yourself. And we even get a scene at the beginning of the film where Hemsworth actually just jumps off a cliff into some water and just sits there. Maybe he's trying to kill himself, or some sort of mental anguish at the time, not knowing what's happened. And it's cool how it kind of rounds out the end. You think perhaps Hemsworth is dead because he got shot in the neck and fell in a river. But at the end, very end of the film, you see these sequences of following the gangster that try to have him kidnapped, going about life and the lavish stuff, and you see this son walking about through his normal life and stuff, going through school, going to swim and stuff. And they kind of do this reverse shot where the kid's always on the left and the gangster's on the right when they show this. And the gangster's taken out. And I think this was kind of a nod to The Godfather or something. Or it was reminiscent to me, where you got him as the Godfather at church, and also the hits being taken out at the same time while he becomes the Godfather. It felt like that to me. I don't know if anyone else picks up on that, but it seems that this child who talks about kind of loathing his father, knowing that he does bad things, he kills other people's fathers, as he puts it, having actually killed someone himself out of necessity, and befriending a apparently lifelong killer with Hemsworth, this character. I'm not sure if this was just a revenge plot kind of unsaid by the mercenary crew, or if it was a hit taken out by the child, but that's what it felt like to me. It was a hit, and he's kind of taken on this responsibility of the family business. It's not a lot of development to tell you that, but that's kind of how I knowing film language a bit, and having some reference past film, that's what it said to me. Let me know in comments what you thought, if that's the case. And the very end, this takes place about 8 months later. The kid gets out of the pool, mirroring what Hemsworth did in the water. When he gets out, there's in the blurry background, there is a white guy watching over him. So it seems like maybe Hemsworth has become a personal bodyguard of this child, maybe also a mentor as well. But it's not clearly stated. Also, one last thing before we get to that review stuff. Sam Hargrave actually plays. Let me scroll down and find this character. He plays Gayton, if I'm saying that right, which I'm assuming, having seen his picture, is the sniper on the team at the, I'd say, first quarter of the film. So that's kind of a cool little detail there, a little wrinkle. It's always cool to see directors involved with their own films, like Shyamalan does a lot. So there's this reception now on with this film, and it's an angle people have, I guess. This stuff has been argued, at least to my understanding, here and there since Dances with Wolves, those type of films, where you get a white man who's not part of this culture. He comes into it however he does, maybe embrace it or something, but he is kind of the turning point for the non-whites, whatever the plot necessitates, whether it's like a tribe or people or just a family, what have you. And so people are taking this film as a white savior film. Our buddy Scott Mendelson, if you follow Phantom Menace coverage for a few years over at Forbes, he writes, "Look, get this out of the way. Yes, director Sam Hargrave and writer Joe Russo's Extraction is an arguably problematic white savior flick." It's just like, oh my god, like, maybe I have a bias because I've been deployed, been in the military. So I have like a perspective a lot of people don't have, but the West, largely, most Western countries have sent, to some extent, troops to the Middle East conflicts of the last couple of decades. And so we've been kind of entrenched in warfare, especially if you get special forces guys, whether they do one term or not. A lot of them, if they don't stay in, go about doing some sort of contracting or mercenary work, bodyguard security, armed security. I'm not talking about mall cops, but high level stuff. So it makes sense that a character like Hemsworth's character could become a mercenary after military service with the high investment he's put into training. So it's not ridiculous that white guys, quote unquote, in this profession could be seen as top tier, to be a bodyguard, to be a mercenary crew or what have you. So I think that with this whole white people are bad in every instance, unless they virtue signal about giving people minorities positions of power and yet still taking those positions of power, saying no, it's okay, I'm not the problem, it's other white people. We're just infected with this culture right now of always looking for infringements of the white person. Like it's weird. This is an American film made over in India, as far as I know. So that's just kind of the natural perspective. If a Nigerian made a film with a Nigerian character, even if he's in America, I would expect it to have that kind of perception. So I guess you could argue if he has a good outcome like this, he'd be a Nigerian savior. Or I don't know. It's weird. These people never reflect on using their logic on a different location. There's white privilege in America's largely white. They never talk about brown privilege, or I don't know if this is incorrect, not yellow privilege for if you're Chinese, where if you go to that country, you're not Oriental type Asian, you're going to be looked at different. It's going to be a little harder for you to be accepted. It's just kind of the nature of things. It's commonality. It's human nature, tribalism, at an intrinsic level. So this score, I think 62% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not sure what Metacritic and others have, but it's got about a 50 to 60% success with critics. So not stellar, and I think it's being hindered because of this handicap of excessive violence. For some reason, violence is bad in intentionally violent films, and it's a white man saving in our view minority, even though he's going to that country to save them. It's weird. I really hate this stuff, but I also hate the reporting of every little thing being woke and no real thought put behind it, besides the standard little tags and whatnot. Sorry if this review went on a little bit, but I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. I want to give you my full context, full thoughts in depth. Maybe you'll go watch The Godfather, look at that film language at the end, and then watch this sequence, and maybe you'll pick up on what I am or not. Or maybe you'll think, no, I don't see it as being similar at all. You're reaching. But yeah, really fun watch if you like this kind of stuff. It is bloody, and I think it needs to be for the type of stuff. It just adds weight to, like, this is grueling, yeah, definitely check it out. Thanks for joining. Give me some suggestions for future films, especially on Netflix, to watch, and maybe I'll review them. Let me know what you thought of this, and talk to y'all later.